Hey Diane, it's Alicia. So I have got, I'm going to start with basically the first thing. When you get your machine, obviously you're going to have it in the box. So you'll open your box up, and inside here you'll notice that the spool pin has been removed, but the screws on top, spool pin is going to be right here in this bubble wrap. And then you'll also notice that I've got inside of here the thread that we used when testing it and the whole checkoff list. And so you'll lift out the machine, and I'm going to stick this one back over here because this is our 40s machine. But if you look over at my sewing table, you'll see that you've got your machine all nice and ready to go. And then back down here in the side of the box, your presser foot is also nicely wrapped in here, so you'll just need to unwrap that. So for today, in making this video for you, I've got your machine nicely hooked up here, and we are using Clickity's cord pedal just to make it a little bit easier. So I've got my list here of the questions that you had in terms of getting your machine ready to sew. So once you unpackage your machine, we recommend that you don't do it on a soft surface like a bed or a couch. You want to definitely make sure that it is on a hard surface like a kitchen table, a counter, or your sewing table preferably. So this is again just a extra spool pin that's actually broken, but we've got it sitting on here just for all intents and purposes for the video, so I didn't have to unbubble wrap it. So the first thing you'll do is you're going to tighten that screw down, and you'll use just a regular flathead screwdriver and go ahead and tighten that down. It doesn't have to be super tight. The main goal is just for it to cover those top gears, and we'll get into the gears underneath here. So you asked the question about best thread. Because Gutermann is easier for me to be able to give a small spool to everyone, that is what I use when we're doing the test stitches. However, it's been brought to my attention that the Gutermann that's on the market now is not the same Gutermann that was used many years ago, or I shouldn't say many years ago, but a few years ago. Apparently Gutermann, which used to be made in Germany, and this one is an old spool of thread that I've had forever, and this one is made in Germany. Apparently now they've outsourced themselves to Mexico, and the thread is not as good quality. So you'll find that a lot of people in the Featherweight group use the Aurifil thread. So the only reason why I don't use it here to do test stitches and stuff like that is because I couldn't afford to give everybody a huge spool of Aurifil thread. Last time I checked, I don't think they make the small ones. So I do go ahead and purchase the small Gutermann spools like the one that's in this bag here, and that's what we use. So in terms of best quality thread, I would say it would be the Aurifil. I don't have a whole lot of time to sew, but I've got my hands on some of these just because I've heard that it doesn't leave as much lint. And that's one of the main things. You don't want a bunch of lint, clogging up the feed dogs underneath there. So hopefully that answers your first question about the thread. If you don't have some of this, I think the Featherweight shop has a spool on there. I'm sure you could probably find it cheaper somewhere else, but if you just wanted to grab a spool to try it to see how it works for you, that might be a good place to start. So for today and doing the demonstrations, I am going to use the Gutermann thread. So let's go over now how to thread the machine, because that'll probably be one of the first things that you do. And I've got two thread stands here, mainly because I don't know which one the Featherweight shop is using or sending out now. I don't know why they changed it. I bought this one in April, and then I bought this one in the latter half of July, and it came, and as you can see, they're different. Functionality is exactly the same. So you'll take your thread stand, and there's an oiling point right here at the top of the machine. I'll turn on this light and see if that helps. Right up here at the top, and the thread stand will fit right in there. Some of these oiling points are more narrow, and so the thread stand does not fit all the way down in there. That's okay. Don't push it. You do not want to shove this down in there. It's okay if it just kind of hangs out. It's still going to do the same thing. So it just goes right up there in that top oiling point, and you don't have to push it down or anything like that. So you'll go ahead and stick your thread, and the main function for this thread stand is, as you can see, this spool pin is a lot smaller than your spool of thread, and that also includes the Aurifil thread. Back in the day, the spools of thread were a little bit skinnier, and then it just went straight across and it was able to lift up off the spool. Now, if I was just to thread the machine with this, it's not going to lift it up off. It's going to create more drag. So you put the spool up through this first loop up here, and then there is a hole right here, or if you have this thread stand, there's that little eyelet, and you're just going to stick the thread right straight through there. And then there's this little eyelet right here, and you're just going to bring the thread over it and down. And then there are these tension discs right here, and you want the thread to go in between there, just like that. And I'm going to bring my lever all the way up into the upright position here. And then I like to hold on to the thread here so that way I'm not pulling a bunch of thread. So then you're going to lift this little boot guy right here with your thread up, and it's going to go behind. So now you've got both threads behind this arm. And then from there, this thread is going to go right into the eyelet and down. Now you're going to take note that over here you've got an eyelet here that the thread's going to go through. So you'll just, push that through. And then there's an eyelet that wraps around the faceplate, and then there's another eyelet that wraps around the needle. So you'll go through that eyelet and through that eyelet. And then you're going to thread the needle from left to right. Let's see if I can get this in there. Sometimes I have to lick that thread just to make sure that I can get it through into that hole. So there we go. And then under your presser foot. And that is how you thread the machine. I do believe you asked about needles. The Schmetz needles are the ones that they recommend at the Featherweight shop, and Schmetz is actually the needles that I've always used with my Viking. Good quality needle. When you place it in the machine itself, and we can actually take out yours and we'll demonstrate it there. You'll unscrew this little guy right here, and you'll pull that straight down. You'll notice that the needle is flat on one side and round on the other. The round side, you're going to want it to face the neck of the machine. And the flat side, you're going to want to face to the left. So then you'll just stick this back and up through here, and you'll tighten that back down. So there's that. And let's go ahead and stick this through again. Although I don't know if we're going to be doing, we're not going to do stitches. Let's go ahead and go over threading the bobbin. So on here, on this machine, you've got what is known as the stop back motion knob, which is the silver dial here. And I always have trouble remembering. Towards me disengages it, and away from me engages it. So I'm going to pull this thread out so I can show you how to thread it for a bobbin. And then I'll go back over that engage, disengage thing. So when we're threading a bobbin, we don't even have to mess with the upper half of the machine. We're just going to simply lift it through the first hook there with the thread stand, through the eyelet, and then through this eyelet here. And rather than going down and around, we're going to pull it down and here is our bobbin tension. So we're going to put it through these two discs. So if you see, there's a little spring there and it goes through these two discs. You'll take the bobbin winder here and you're going to lay it flat up against the belt, and you'll place your bobbin here on the end. I definitely recommend you've got your scissors on hand, because some people will hold this while it's winding and let it snap off. I generally will wind just a little bit and then go ahead and cut it down so I can make sure that there's not any dangling threads. So then you'll take this thread and you'll notice that there's little holes on the bobbin. I'll just take that off real fast so you can see the little holes on the bobbin. Just wanted to show you in case you weren't familiar. So you'll take the thread and you're going to put it through one of those holes to where it comes out on the other side. So then we're going to actually put the stop back motion knob, we're going to engage it. So right now it's, oh there we go, I guess it went towards me. So when it goes towards the wall, you'll see that when the wheel is turning, the needle is going up and down. When we're winding a bobbin, we don't want that needle to go up and down. So we're just going to take this knob and we're going to put it towards us. And as you'll see, when I move this pedal here, it is not going to move up and down. So, yeah, see, I didn't grab it. So the thread is actually in there. But since this is just a practice bobbin, so you'll just go ahead and wind your bobbin, making sure that this goes back and forth. You know, you may have to adjust the tension, or not the tension, but the direction of the bobbin tension discs down here based off of the different weight and thread, the different thread that you use. So all you have to do with that is take your screwdriver, loosen this screw a little bit, and then move this either left or right, and then screw it back down. I've got it pretty set pretty good, so I don't really want to do a lot of messing with that. I'll leave that for you to do. And again, if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask. So that's the basics on, you know, winding the bobbin. With this, obviously this machine is significantly a little bit older than some of your modern machines, and therefore the bobbin itself is not going to stop when it's full. So you just want to kind of wind it slow to medium speed, keep an eye on that, and definitely stop, you know, when the bobbin is full enough, and then go on your merry way. So once you get done winding a bobbin, make sure that you put this stop back motion knob back in motion for sewing. And then what you'll want to do is use the bobbin meter. And so this is the bobbin meter here. And again, the Featherweight shop changed the bobbin meters on me, so I'm assuming that this is the one that they're using now. Before this, they had a black one. But this one has a little line that's drawn right here in between. It's right at, you know, a little bit above the 25. So probably about like 23. And that line is where you really want your bobbin to check out at. So once you get done, you'll take your bobbin off of the bobbin winder, and you'll go ahead and make like a little knot at the end of the string. And I always make two just because the clip on there, I want to make sure that when I'm pulling on it, it's going to work. So you've got your bobbin, and then what you're going to do is you're going to place it into the bobbin case. So this is our friend, the bobbin case. And you'll notice that it's got two little screws up here. And you can, oh no, oops, my hand slipped. Sorry about that. When you go to adjust this for tension, and you may have to do that depending again on the thread. I believe it's the first one right here from looking at it this way. You will take, oh, it's the
one closest
to the mechanism back here. Okay, so it's the second one. This one right here, which is closest to this little hook right here. It does not take much to adjust this. It's a small little screwdriver. will do just fine. We use this small little Craftsman screwdriver. And it does not take much, not even a half a turn, more like an eighth of a turn, if that. Little bits at a time, and then you'll go back and forth with the bobbin meter. So you'll stick your bobbin inside the case, and you're going to pull this thread. You're going to go this way. So you're going to pull the thread around. So there's a little hook there. It's going to go in there, and then you're going to pull it, and it's going to snap right into that little hole right there. So you're going to attach it then to the end of the bobbin meter. And we're aiming, when I pull on this bobbin case, we're aiming that this dial goes right at that line or somewhere very close to it. So when we're holding the bobbin case, we want to not really put a lot of tension on the case itself, because that's going to mess with our reading. So we'll normally put our finger on this little piece of metal that kind of hangs off, and then our thumb to kind of hold the edge of the part that flaps up there. So kind of like this. And then we're just going to lightly hold our bobbin meter up, and we're just going to pull down. So when it's going and pulling down, you'll see for the most part it's on that line. Sometimes it's bumpy. And again, this bobbin case is actually adjusted for the sample thread that I have for you. So what you would do then is, if it's too high or too low or not on that line, you would simply just make little adjustments with the screw, and then hold this up and pull it down again. And then once you get it to that line, your bobbin case is fine. And then from there you can just go ahead and cut the thread off of there. And again, if this seems a little bit confusing or I'm going too fast, let me know, and we can definitely walk through it, you know, once you've got your machine in hand. There's no issue about that at all. When you go to put the bobbin, so you're done with the bobbin meter and your bobbin's set to the perfect tension, and you're ready to go. Underneath here, here's your bobbin assembly, and this is where your bobbin case is going to hook on. So my bobbin case has this little tiny flap here that you're going to pull out, and that's going to help hold the bobbin inside there. And you're just simply going to put the middle hole onto that shaft right there. And sometimes you got to wiggle it a little bit. And then you want to have a significant amount of thread out from there. And then your machine should be threaded when you insert the bobbin case, because you're going to want to pull that thread up through the feed dog area. So I'm going to very quickly go back through and thread the machine, just so that way I can get the thread so I can pull it up through. And once again, like I said, if there's something I leave out or you need me to emphasize something more, let me know. We can do another video. We can do a FaceTime. It is not a big issue at all. I want to make your experience easy. So holding this extra string out here, I'm going to take the stop back motion knob and pull it towards me, pull it down, and pull up that bobbin thread. So you'll see that loop. Again, I carry these small little tiny scissors with me, so I can very easily take the edge of it and just pull the loop up and out through the back. And then all I have to do is get my thread under there and get ready to sew. So that is pretty much the winding the bobbin, threading the machine, and inserting the bobbin case. I'm going to take another picture of this and post this on my site, because I think the picture got lost. But this right here is a chart for oiling points. And this also kind of discusses what all needs to be oiled and when. So green is every day you sew, blue is every 8 hours of sewing, red is every 6 months, and then this right here, which means grease every 6 months or annually. So you're really only going to, this machine's already been greased for you when you get it. So 6 months from now, if you do a lot of continuous sewing, you're going to want to re-grease it. So we'll start over here. This front screw, and I'm going to point that out on your machine, this is every 6 months, and then the rest of this, if you sew for 8 hours consecutively, you're going to re-oil all of these points. If you do a little bit of sewing for like 45 minutes to an hour, you don't need to oil your machine. It's for 8 consecutive hours of sewing, or over a course of a couple of days, 8 hours total. And your machine will also let you know. So let's go ahead and just open up your machine really fast so I can show you as we go along. So we're just going to pull out the thread and stick that to a side. So on here you've got this little knob here that you'll just go ahead and unscrew. Put your hand up here to support that so it doesn't go falling off and possibly scratch your bed. And then you're going to pull it towards you and off of the uptake lever. So this right here, all these in here is going to need some oiling. And you can see that, you know, it has been oiled, but we'll just go ahead and kind of go through it. I'm not going to put drops of oil on there because I don't want to put too much and have it an oily mess. So this right here, this front guy right here, it's just a big screw. That drop of oil on top of that is every 6 months. But for the rest of it, you'll put a drop of oil. There's a little hole right on top of here, which is an oiling hole. So you'll put a drop of oil there. When I'm really thinking about it, I've got to look at my paper. Here, one right behind there, another here, another back down here, one here, one right in here, one here, and one here, and then there's another screw back here right on top of there. One thing that I always kind of remember is that anything where metal is touching metal, or there's parts that are going up and down, so right here would be one, would be a place that I would put a drop of oil, just so that way it's well lubricated. So once you've finished that, you can go ahead and put this faceplate back on there, and once again line up your hole and hold that on there for some support, and go ahead and just put your screw back in there. Underneath here in the bobbin assembly, this is going to be every day. So if I pull out my bobbin case here, there is an oiling point right in here, and we sometimes go ahead and put a drop right back behind the little 2 holes, which is kind of hard to see, but there's one there and one there. We just put a drop back there too. This is going to be every day that you sew. And again, if it needs oil, you're going to hear it. It'll sound a little bit rough, and then once that oil's in there, that will take care of the problem. So that's pretty much everything on the upper part of the machine, well, the front part of the machine. So if we stand up here, there is some oiling points. When we open up the machine, we'll take off this spool pin. And I always recommend, you don't have to take it all the way off. You can just simply slide this over. Yeah, the flashlight's a good idea. Our flashlight likes, there we go. So there's inside there. So we'll start up here at the top of the machine. There's going to be a drop of oil that goes here. There's another oiling point here that a drop of oil will go into. And then right here where your threads stand. So 1, 2, 3. And then here you'll see that there's a hole right there. That hole has a drop of oil. And right here has a drop of oil on this, what would that be called? Cam, okay. And then a drop of oil here. And every once in a while you'll want to put a drop of oil right here in the bobbin winder. Some people do, some people don't recommend it. It can become an oily mess, but we do on occasion, just so that way it's, again, well lubricating. When you grease the machine, which we use the grease from the Featherweight shop, it is a low melting point grease specifically made for the featherweights. It comes in this little tube. I always wear either a latex or non-latex glove, you know, whichever one works best for you. So that way my hands don't get all dirty. But you'll put not even a pea size amount, half of a pea drop on your finger. And then right here on these gears, you'll just rub that half drop, spin your wheel a quarter turn, add another half drop, spin your wheel a quarter turn, another, and then just kind of spin that around. And once you see that the gear is lubricated, I don't mean doused with grease, but just well lubricated, you've got enough on there. So I'm going to turn off the machine, and I'm actually going to take this spool pin off of there and go ahead and put your screw back in there, because we're going to just do a little bit of waxing on here just to touch her up and get her ready to go, and then I'll have her packaged out for you. I'm also going to unplug the machine. I don't have the machine plugged in when I'm oiling or greasing. So once you do that, you can then slip your machine on its side, and you're going to notice that there are two oil points right here on the back of the machine. A drop of oil will go here and a drop of oil will go here. And those, again, they're picturing every 8 hours of sewing. So basically, one thing to remember, all the oiling points on the top and in front of the throat plate is every 8 hours consecutively, and on the back every 8 hours. The one in the bobbin assembly is where you're going to want to do that every day that you sew. The oiling points underneath, when I flip this over, and I'm going to unscrew my oil pan here. The oiling points are going to be, let's see if I shine this light in here. This flashlight is not, there we go. Okay. There's an oiling point up here, and then another shaft back here, another shaft back here, and then there's a hole here. There's a spot right up in here that you'll see it's